everything works very well at Cornerstone. There's 121,000 square feet in that building. There's 26 classrooms, and the classrooms are very large. From a layman's perspective, what is a large classroom and a small classroom? 975 square feet on average per classroom. That's quite a bit of space. We'd like to see 850, 900 square feet per classroom. We have plenty of classrooms, plenty of square footage. From a utility perspective, it's a strong building. I think one of the conversations that comes up with Cornerstone that I have heard at times is that the building was built in 1922. There was a time when that building wasn't good enough for our students, so we built the building that we're in now. And why did we put kids back in there? I thought at one point they were going to tear that building down. Well, there was a conversation that obviously had changed when there was an upgrade in that building in 1994. $5 million, in fact, went into that building in 1994. Though the outside still looks like a 1922 building, it went through a significant renovation, and architecturally it's a beautiful building. On the inside, we can program space there very, very well. That's our thoughts on Cornerstone, and obviously with all those positives, we want to keep Cornerstone in our inventory. The next building that we'll highlight is Parkview. Parkview, same conversation from each board from here on out as Cornerstone. Look down above. If you've ever seen Cornerstone from above, it's almost like a horseshoe. It was built in 1956, has 35,000 square feet, 19 classrooms. The average classroom size is 945 square feet per classroom. Sits on 10 acres, so we have got some flexibility there for the future if we would ever need that. From an electrical perspective, another three-phase system with amperage that can pull our digital classrooms of a 21st century classroom. Student capacity there is pretty significant. We feel like from a transportation perspective, we can program the building from a walk area and a pickup area. It's another building that when you evaluate all the criteria that we just talked about at Cornerstone, Parkview is another building that we felt we want to keep in our inventory. Melrose Elementary School is next. Another large building, almost 31,000 square feet. Was built in 1962. Another building with 10 acres. That's 3 buildings in a row. You've got some space that you can program there. Technologically, again, that three-phase system. It's another strong building. Handicap accessible. We know it's hard to find too many negatives. More positive. I will say that the Safe Routes to School program that's happening there now. I know that it's quite a mess on Melrose, but eventually we're certainly going to reap the benefits of that Safe Routes to School program. Melrose is another building we want to keep in our inventory. There almost seems something wrong about how we go about the presentation to get down to 2 buildings. And we couldn't think administratively of a better way to have this conversation. Felt we needed to share with you why these were we felt the 2 best buildings, which will obviously be evident when we highlight this next one. We felt like we want to keep Keene in our inventory. This is a building with 32,000 square feet, right across the street. Had a significant renovation in 1993. Actually, the front half is probably the best elementary square footage we have in the district. Sits on a lot of 30 acres, so it does give the Board of Education significant flexibility to program. Another handicapped accessible building. Because it has a newer front end, there are some advantages to that building, like the conference room, the way we program health services for our kids. Another positive from a transportation walk area perspective, and again, a building that we felt we wanted to keep in our inventory. Obviously, the two buildings that are left are Lincoln Way and Wayne. From a Lincoln Way's perspective, for the first, it sits on less than 2.5 acres. It does not provide for any significant growth. We have minor handicap accessibility issues, certainly not major. Some handicap accessibility issues. From a utility perspective, it can pull. It can definitely pull the digital classrooms today. The classrooms are small. They're a little bit smaller. It's 785 square feet per classroom, and there's only 17 classrooms there. Just get a little bit more flexibility in some of those other buildings. The building was built in 1949. The building did have a couple of renovations, one in 55 and one in 73. Wayne is the next building, and as difficult as this will be, and is for everybody, this was probably a bit of an easier decision, purely from an educational space perspective. This building is nowhere near, from a utilities perspective, in running what the other 5 buildings can run from an electrical perspective. It is a one-phase system. In order to, the building was built in 1937, and believe it or not, I don't mean this funny, but literally there's one electrical outlet in every classroom. What were we plugging in 1937? We would need to do some significant electrical upgrades if we're going to bring that up to a 21st century digital environment. A positive of the property does sit on 15 acres. A negative is the classrooms are the smallest in the district. They average 720 square feet. Not, again, you say that this is a bad building, it just doesn't stack up as well to the other ones. And probably the biggest problem, not a knock at Wayne, again, it just doesn't stack up as well with the other buildings, and that's the bottom floor. 2 classrooms are in the basement and the library. It's not handicap accessible. One could easily say it's not causing much difficulty today, but it doesn't stack up as well on these classrooms when you consider things like utilities, handicap accessibility, and the size of the classrooms. Consequently, that is a building that we would recommend that we close. That would conclude our presentation.